Right, so let's start. My name is Alfredo Ramirez. I am the co-director of the Landscape Urbanism Master Program, together with Eduardo Rico. Eduardo is not around today for personal reasons, but he will be joining us next Friday. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is introduce quickly the Landscape Urbanism Program, which is a 12-month design studio-based master. And I will try to explain and elaborate on what we think is landscape urbanism and what we understand about this. Basically, landscape urbanism is a relatively new discipline that has been developing for the last 15 years or so. And here at the AA, we have a special or particular way of understanding landscape urbanism and following the tradition of innovative way of doing things at the AA. We have managed to reinvent and redefine the program for this year, as you will see in a few moments. But first of all, I like just to kind of drop you what we, or the way in which we define landscape urbanism here at the AA, which is different from other places and other schools. The landscape urbanism explores how the techniques, dynamics, and discourses of landscape-based disciplines can be reappropriated so as to ask fundamental questions about the contemporary city. It explores the ways in which the intersection of physical and social processes and dynamics of territorial formation generate new forms of urban design, governance, and knowledge. For the past 5, probably 7 years, we've been applying these concepts, these definitions, into other contexts, like emerging contexts, emerging economies, developing countries, such as China, India, and Latin America. But this year, we have actually going back to Europe, and we are taking up the challenge that the condition of Europe is offering to us. And this is this was the perfect excuse to reinvent the methodology, which we have been applying in those places. So Europe offers us this possibility, and we will be using it this year as the brief for the course. So basically, Europe. In October 2000, the European Landscape Convention in Florence became the first pan-European project with the ambition of defining the entirety of the European territory from a landscape and cultural perspective. It promised a collective sense of the appreciation, understanding, and development of European territorial specificity, supported by a comprehensive studies of charters and tailor-made recommendations. However, the Florence Convention was produced more as a set of policies for property developers and agricultural producers than a meaningful system of space production. In this context, we ask ourselves, where does AA landscape urbanism position itself? Well, it is within this rift in Europe between utilitarian and cultural practices of European policies that landscape urbanism aims to find a space for territorial research, exploring how productive, social, and natural formation can generate the basis of a pan-European project of territories which are neither generic nor iconic, neither conventional or touristic, in order to propose a coherent territorial project. In doing so, landscape urbanism will generate an atlas of possible territories as the basis of new forms of documenting and envisioning the future of European environments. It will do so digitally, simulating territories, processes, and dynamics, as well as through cartographic explorations, asking questions along the way of specificity, localism, formation, and intention. In this way, what we will be exploring will be completely opposite conditions as previous years. Instead of rapid urbanization, we will dive into slow urbanization processes. We will engage with the dynamics produced by the economic crisis and over-infrastructure territories. Instead of processes and industrialization, we will study the deindustrialized contexts, which are becoming service cities or are engaging in alternative types of economies. We will revise the struggle of agricultural production in the so-called developed countries across Europe. In short, this year, we are redefining and reinventing landscape urbanism and its relevance as a global discipline and Europe as a territorial project. In order to do this, we have created, so to say, 3 concepts, which will be fundamental in the understanding of this new methodology. The idea of an atlas, a collection of different cartographies and maps that not only will read the territories, but also will be a projective tool. And in so we will ask, how do we engage with the tension existing within specific conditions that are in some ways prototypical across territories in Europe? The other concept, an idea, it's cartography. We will engage with the tradition of cartographies, asking the question of what are the drawings, theories, techniques, and documents through which we think this territorial turn into a design praxis. And the final one is the idea of territory. Landscape urbanism would like to engage with an idea of territorial praxis and the different components that it engage. The name or the naming of the territory as a process of appropriation, as an identifiable entity, or as a natural anthropologized space, the idea of a natural milieu plus a human action. And governance, the idea of organizations incarnated by various agents. These 3 concepts will be the basis and the core of the methodology of landscape urbanism. So, to the new students, welcome to the AA Landscape Urbanism 2013-14, a pan-European atlas of radical cartographies. The way we will structure the course is, as you see in the screen, there are 3 main parts. The first one called Territorial Creolis, Cartogenesis, and Documentation. Territorial Creolis. The way we understand territory is a kind of utilitarian and necessary hybridization and synthesis of physical environments and social dynamics. So in this part of the course, we will engage with simulations, we will engage with ways of organizations that could interact in different ways through digital simulation. So in this part of the course, we will also ask ourselves, can we imagine alternative intersections between physical and social processes in the territory? What is the role of the designer taking decisions at the scale of these territorial formations? And the second part of the course, which is called Cartogenesis, we will ask the students to engage with the idea of cartography. And as I said, not only as a way of reading or analyzing the territory, which is somehow the common way in which we use maps and cartographies right now, but as a way of designing and proposing territories. They will be the main tool to engage with large tracts of space. And in doing so, we will ask again, which design decisions are applicable to territorial conditions which are rich and specific yet generic and transnationally relevant? How is it that the selection and representation of information across Europe can become a projective tool for territorial conditions? And the last part of the course, which we call documentation, will be an exploration of alternative ways in which we can actually present the projects developed by the students. So we will try and turn the encyclopedic approach of the Florence Convention into a project of territorial praxis. We will try to overcome the idea of master planning, which is so embedded in urban design, in urbanism, and city planning practices. And we will try to avoid the fixicity and stability of that precise outcome of projects. So we will explore together with the students new ways of documenting the cartography and the atlas and the territory as the main concepts. So just before continuing the explanation of how we're going to structure the design studio, I just want to introduce the staff that will be part of the course. As I mentioned, Eduardo, who is the other co-director, he's not here for personal reasons. But here is Clara Loris, who will be the studio master in the design studio. There will be also Douglas Spencer, who will be leading 2 of the seminars. There will be also Tom Smith, who will be leading another seminar in the second term. And we have our technical and software tutors who are joining this year to the simulation part of the course, who are Ignacio Lopez Buzon, who is over there, Giancarlo Torpiano, and Vincenzo Reale. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the master is a design studio course. So it's actually based all around the work at the studio. And so the way the students will be, let's say, engaged and organized will be into a sort of interaction and feedback process of 24/7, which means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from now on to next September. So I guess the new students are ready for that, because that's the reason why we are 2 directors, so we make sure all of you are engaged throughout the whole year. There will be also a strong input by Ignacio, Vincenzo, and Giancarlo of digital simulation and modeling. This is quite important to the engagement to the European project, and we will do this by scripting different type of landscapes, different type of processes across Europe. And the scripting process will have different outcomes based basically on GIS softwares and Rhino modeling. We will use a lot these 2 in order to collect database, in order to produce cartographies, and in order to make the projects propositive and not only analytical. At the same time, the design studio is organized in 2 ways. There are group works, but there's also individual assessment. Throughout the whole year, the students will work in groups of 2 or 3 people, and they will be working in the workshops, in the seminars, etc. But at the same time, there will be individual assessments for the work they produce in the workshops and the essays they will write in the seminars. So a combination and balance of the individual work plus the group work will be the result of a final assessment at the end of the year. The whole course is organized in 3 terms, plus a 4th one, which is the thesis work. As I mentioned before, the first one is called Territorial Creolis. The second one will be a combination of the first one, which is Territorial Creolis, plus cartogenesis. The 4th one will be cartogenesis alone, and the last one will be this exploration on new documents to present the projects developed by the students. The main kind of backbone of the course are the workshops, in which we teach the students the methodology, the techniques, the ways in which we understand landscape urbanism to specific exercises. So there is the first one, which is called Social Formations. And this workshop will seek an understanding of processes of social formation, their multiple forms of organization, and the ways in which these produce specific spatial configurations. The students will diagram, similar to what you see in the screen, and ultimately employ in their design practice their knowledge of the ways in which specific groups have historically organized themselves into productive communities, such as trade unions, local associations, guilds, cartels, and cooperatives. The second one, and quite important one, is called Landscripts. Landscripts is based on software programming to enable students to script basic procedural modeling and to understand the ways in which physical interactions of material and processes produce recognizable morphologies in the landscape. And here the students will introduce intention and design criteria into the flow of the simulation to enhance iterative processes. Cartogenesis is set to generate a series of cartographical representations of projects. This workshop will have a strong graphical and critical input with the aim of drafting a cartogenetic manifesto of the pan-European intentions of the projects. And the seminars are the part which is the theoretical bit of the master, in which several concepts, definitions, ideas will be explained throughout the whole year, and they will be teach along the studio work. We have organized this year 5 seminars. 2 of them will happen at the first term, and 3 of them will happen in the second term. The first one is called core seminars. And this core seminars is taught along the studio. All the work and all the concepts, all the technical works that we used within the tutorials, within the studio work, will be explained in this core seminar. And where questions of territorial formation, process, matter, the relevance of the drawing as a design tool, among others, will be set alongside landscape and urban modeling as a basis from which to discuss matters of design and territorial concerns. Territorial processes, it's a second seminar, and this is based on geomorphology. This is kind of supporting the landscape workshop. And there will be a series of short seminars addressing the territorial formation processes such as dunes, sedimentation, glaciers, etc. And these sessions will be presented by engineers and scientists currently at the cutting edge of research into the use of computational tools and the study of geomorphology. At the same time, there is this seminar, which is called Models, Methods, and History, which will be taught by Douglas Spencer. This workshop is a lecture and seminar-based, it's a seminar-based unit concerned with the ways in which the intersections and interactions of landscape and urbanism have been taught, model, design, and analyze. It is designed to introduce the student to a critical engagement with these matters that will inform an understanding of the potential of problematic of landscape urbanism. This, in turn, is designed to support the students' practice and development within their studios, workshops, and other seminars. The fourth one will be cartographies, genealogies, and practices, which will support the cartogenesis workshop. And this will address certain key points and practices in the historical development of cartography as a representational device. Methods of mapping will be explored in terms of their uses, implications, and potentials so as to critically inform the drafting of a cartogenetic manifesto and the writing of the final project thesis. And the final seminar, which is called Machinic Landscapes, is with the idea of integrating knowledge and principle of a range of construction techniques related to the design of landscape projects to understand, consider, and address the complexity of the relations among contemporary urban dynamics, adopting in this way a machinic ethos, useful for the development of projects. Then there are one last bit, which is the field trip. We used to do group field trips, but this year, because we are aiming at the development of a pan-European project, we will travel, or rather the students will travel individually to different locations around Europe. So there will be a collective effort to organize the information. But at the same time, there will be 2 phases of this field trip. The first one will be data gathering. Data gathering will be start here in the studio space with the use of GIS software and the collection of information of different sites. And then there will be the site visits, which will happen at the end of the first term. But as I said, they will be individually organized, but that will be explained later on. So just to wrap up and coming back to the main point, so what does landscape urbanism have to offer? That's a good question, isn't it? Well, actually, we leave it now to our new group of talented students to tell us. So we will wait for the answers tomorrow starting at 10 a.m. in the studio. So thank you very much. So, sorry, one last thing. To the landscape urbanism students, I have here the handbooks. So if you want to collect them now or during the presentations, you just have to come and find me. Thank you.